I know for sure internally our focus is using AI to reduce barriers to crew members to end users.
We know things now that we didn't think were possible 6 months ago.
You know, shipping is risky, right? It's dangerous, and you need that human in the loop.
Welcome to Talking Ship. In this episode, I'm joined by Niall Jack, Director of Product Management at Shipnet, and Terje Kristiansen, CEO of Shipnet. We're going to focus this time on AI in shipping. So let me start by asking you, Niall, how important is AI in the industry?
It's a good and fair question, and you don't need to look much further than every other industry to get an idea of how important it is for shipping. It's affecting absolutely everything in our lives now. So from Amazon to Google search, OpenAI, the cutting edge stuff. Shipping, while we can be a bit slow to adopt new technology, we have a great opportunity to use tools like AI to really speed up that digital transformation.
And do you think that shipping is almost sort of leading the way? Because I know that you guys, especially at Shipnet, you know, you are about efficiency and technology and, you know, moving on to the next level of these things.
It's always easy, I think, to give shipping a hard time in this respect. Shipping can be quite slow with technological, sort of embracing technology. I'm always very cautious. It's not a reflection on shipping. Shipping's a very cautious industry, highly profitable and consistently profitable. And I think a lot of that is tied to this hesitation and belief in tried and tested technology. But we're getting more and more kind of buy-in from our customers, from shipping companies, people willing to take the risk to try new technologies. As that life cycle becomes a little bit faster, we can start to demonstrate value to our customers in much less time than we would have 5-10 years ago even.
So why is AI a conversation that shipping should care about right now?
The speed of change. You know, we don't know what's around the corner next week, next month, next 6 months. If we aren't having these conversations now, we'll never be ready to take advantage of what comes. And we just have no idea. There could be some fantastic model. OpenAI are pushing for artificial general intelligence. Whether or not you believe that's even possible, that's another question, I think, not for this podcast. But even if we start making steps in that direction, if we don't have, you know, familiarity with the subject, our customers will have a hard time adopting these tools.
What about from your point of view, Terje? Is it better to be sort of within the conversation and have a seat at the table rather than thinking, this isn't going to happen?
Yeah, I think, Niall and I have had different approaches on how to deal with AI. And I've probably had a slight conservative approach up until a few months ago when I actually saw what it can achieve and what we can accomplish as a software developer for the shipping industry around AI. So definitely we just need to get on the bus now, because if we're going to wait for the bigger and better bus in 6-12 months, we're going to be way too late. But I think also for the industry is also something about, you know, believing in and trusting AI. And I think there are different ways of applying AI, you know, from our perspective and also for the shipping companies. You know, would you let AI take over your decision-making process? And at the moment, probably no. So, but you need to start exploring what it can do and cannot do.
So where would be the first places where you would use AI in shipping?
You would probably go where it's, let's call it less risk, but potential big value. So we have applied it to one of our solutions already. So we have started playing with it in where you can query your documents, and the AI chatbot would actually help you responding based upon that. It's not that we haven't started, so we are quite in deep at the moment in this. But you can look at automating processes where there's quite certainty around sort of what the outcome should be based upon the input, where you can use AI to automate that process. It's almost like classic machine learning, but taking it to the next level. So that's sort of where you can start playing with it from a shipping company perspective, in my mind. From our perspective, we are doing other things from how it could support us in our progress as a software vendor to the industry.
Yeah, so the two sides to that story. I think internally, we're starting to use AI tools as much as we possibly can. The default position for us is now, let's try this brand new technology and see how it works for us. So one place that we're rolling it out right now is in support. So we have this document management tool, this chatbot that helps our customers interact with their documentation. Can we provide something similar for Shipnet documentation to help our staff and to help our customers? Yes, is the short answer.
And that's interesting because that was my next question. Is AI going to replace humans, or is it just going to enhance a process that a human does already?
I'm actually going to refer to John Wills, who's been on this podcast earlier, and he said something quite interesting because I almost asked him the same question some weeks back.
Okay.
And I think what he said is quite a good answer. That we actually will evolve. So it's not that we will be replaced, but we will be doing other things. So I don't think like AI is coming in and everybody is going to lose their job. No, I don't think so. We're just going to do different jobs. Of course, you have autonomous ships, which is the whole idea is to have no seafarers on board, which have already been tried out in Norway, for example. But for us, I don't see us not having approximately the same amount of people in 5 years from now. We're just doing different things. My
personal position is it's probably the same for shipping companies. Shipping is risky, right? It's dangerous. And you need that human in the loop just to make it a fail-safe. And we trust seafarers are highly trained, highly skilled. I don't think I'd want to sail on a ferry that I knew there was no crew steering. Same with a plane. You wouldn't fly in a plane if there was nobody in the cockpit should anything go wrong.
What do you think of driverless cars then?
Same. I don't have one. I can't afford one. But the same thing, there's a level of trust that needs to be built, and a driverless car, can be very dangerous if it goes wrong. But if that's a super tanker carrying 400,000 tons of crude oil, the last thing you want is that running aground and then, off the coast of the UK. And it's going to take a huge amount of a mindset transformation to even approach the idea that's feasible.
Who knows, in 15, 20, 30 years, things may have changed because of the speed of development in AI, and what can be achieved is quite exponential in a way. So we know things now that we didn't think were possible 6 months ago.
Yeah, I know for sure internally our focus is using AI to reduce barriers to crew members to end users. So if we can slash the hours that a procurement worker needs to work on procurement in Shipnet, that's a good thing because they can focus on decision making, getting better outcomes for their company.
And I suppose AI will enhance, risk assessment, safety measures, it's that data processing, isn't it? It's that all of the information coming in helps you make better decisions, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. So in risk assessment...
Oh, I think we've got it there.
Yeah, we got
it. The sort of traditional machine learning in risk and safety, there's a huge opportunity to use that kind of data. But even from a practical, what can we do tomorrow? Seafarers, if you've been to sea, you'll spend hours doing admin, filling out these forms, and even if you have a system like Shipnet, it's still admin heavy because you want to record all this data. Can we start to eliminate that and just feed it in using automation? Yes, and we're starting to do that across our safety suite.
We're talking about AI, but actually on a ship, connectivity is pretty non-existent sometimes. How do we deal with that? How do we, as a shipping industry, deal with no connectivity but still wanting AI? Is it all possible to do all of that stuff when you're at sea?
I think, Niall, I know you have been thinking a lot about this.
Yeah. I mean, the short answer is kind of. I mean, the short answer. The complicated answer is kind of.
Yeah.
There are things we can do that'll let our software work offline and still use kind of advanced, localized AI searching, things like that. Different vessels have different number of sensors and sort of data inputs, I guess, connected. So a vessel that has thousands of sensors and is streaming huge amounts of data, you really need that online connection. For a vessel, most vessels in the world, you don't have that level of connectivity, even on board, sort of locally on board. So you don't really need to have a constant connection to get the data off.
Yeah.
So we can batch it, store it, and push it. And we can still make the learning, we can get the learnings from that data without having to have it live, which is quite a powerful tool for us. But then again, the world is changing. It's pretty common, I think. I would almost say the majority of our customers are now, they have these LEO satellites on. Starlink is the famous one. And as vessels get closer to always on internet, the opportunity to give them AI-based tools just goes through the roof.
So can you give me some real life examples of how you're using AI with your customers?
maybe Niall, who is really close on, we're doing a project now with one of our existing customers, or we're starting the project now. Without going too much details, Niall, maybe you could just elaborate a little bit on what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite an unglamorous example in many ways, but
doesn't matter.
Transformative for the way we do things. These AI tools have just accelerated our ability to provide kind of prototypes and proof of concept projects to customers. So now, if somebody says something offhand when we're having one of those customer meetings, they say, I'm really frustrated by this particular problem. Whereas before we might have gone, well, we don't really have anything that can help there, but you make a good point and we'll think about it. Now we can go away and build a kind of prototype, build a working model to really address the problem without having to engage too heavily on, well, how exactly do you want it to look like? And these kind of AI development tools, they're getting better and better every month. So our ability to provide something really quickly that cuts to the kind of root of the problem is great. Trust in AI is something that I'm very keenly aware of, but I think a lot of it comes back to our credibility as Shipnet. So it's not how good is your AI model, it's how much do I trust Terje to look after my problems as a business, or to care about my problems. I mean, there's quite a lot of really good examples that have been raised recently, actually. We had a productive meeting and somebody had mentioned, well, they want to try and increase engagements with the way that they make updates to documentation internally within their company.
Okay.
This is something, we kind of left and we were talking about it afterwards and thinking, well, how can we help them? We weren't looking for an exact definition of a product they wanted we could sell them, but how can we design a solution to that problem? And it became, well, how can we gamify this particular problem? And we had some really, really nice suggestions thrown around from the customer and from internally about how we can generate quizzes and things like that from documentation. Quite a big challenge historically, but using these AI development tools, and it's a very LLM focused problem, we can actually do that quite quickly. And just being able to go back to that customer and say, look, we've thought about your problem. For what it's worth, I agree. I think it's a huge problem. Yeah. And we think this is a really nifty solution. Do you want to talk about it? And that's a kind of level of value that it would have taken us much longer to provide before. And now we can be very responsive to big problems.
The shipping industry, you've already said, sometimes they're slower on the uptake of these things. What's the risk of not going along with AI or falling behind with it?
I think it's almost impossible to answer. We know that we're pretty certain that you need to be, as I said, on the bus now, but it's difficult to say what the risks are because, as we also mentioned, the evolution is so rapid.
Yes.
And it's almost a little bit of a hype at the moment. It's, whatever you look at, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on whatever social media, there's always popping up something around AI. If you read the news, it's about AI. So there is a hype, but at the same time, it's coming. But I'm not sure if we can quantify or say what the risk is.
Yeah.
We believe that if we're not on it, we could be set behind our competition. So we want to be on, but we don't know if that is the biggest risk at the moment. There could be other risks that we haven't thought of, which AI could create for us in 12, 18 months.
We know for sure that if there is some huge advancement in AI technology and you're not on that bus, there'll be a delay, there'll be a lag for you to get up to speed. The cost of that lag is hard to put your finger on, but it could be huge. If the advantages become monumental, and they could, not being on that train, not being on that bus is going to cause you issues. And
I don't want to sort of put this up against, the Industrial Revolution or anything like that, but this could be as huge as that.
Yeah. I mean, AI is probably one of the generational sort of things in technology.
It's probably like not having the internet in the 90s because you don't believe in it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, there were some vessels that still went around, still sending telexes when everyone else was using satellites.
Okay. Yeah.
Still possible to do business.
Yeah.
But it just depends, for that individual ship operator, how efficient do you want to be?
Yes.
And that's, I guess, the question I would ask of somebody that's got zero interest in AI as a shipping operator.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. It's, you need to be on the bus, I think, but it's difficult to say what the risks are. What are the efficiency gains now? what will be the efficiency gains that you have as an operator or a ship manager in 12, 18, 24 months. But really just trying to understand what it is and what it can do, I think is important. So me personally, over the last few months, been reading a lot and experimenting myself exactly what it can do and not do with my limitations. So, and I think that's the thing. You need to understand what it really is.
Where would you like to get it to in the shipping industry, Terje?
Wow, that's a big question.
20 years from now, when you're 42.
Yeah, just touching 43.
Just touching 43.
Yeah.
Where do you, think it will be, and where would you like it to be?
I think and would like it to be somewhere where it's driving safety at sea, reducing for environmental risk. I think is quite important. Also, the let's call it the people risk on board vessels. It's I haven't been at sea. Niall has. It's sometimes quite an unpleasant sort of working environment. So
yes.
So if there's things that can be done to improve on that. Driving value, so the people that are investing money, that they can get good value for their investments. But exactly what the tools will do, again, I'm not sure. I'm convinced there will be fully autonomous ships in 20 years. I still think there will be seafarers on board. I still think there will be people on shore that are responsible for somehow for the fleet of vessels. But as long as it's drive value, it helps you, could potentially make your life more interesting and create new challenges. I think that's a direction to go.
Same question to you then, Niall.
Yeah, no, I think safety is the main concern that we all should have in ships. It's easy to get carried away with, our engines could be slightly more efficient, we can save a bit of fuel, make some more money, but it's all for nothing if somebody gets injured or killed on board one of your vessels. Yeah. So if we can do anything at all as a digital solution provider to reduce that risk, to increase the kind of safety insights you get from your data, automate things, reduce admin workload, allow seafarers to really focus on what they're good at, which is seafaring, then that's a win for me. So safety is the area that I target most of all in my day-to-day work at Shipnet.
I'm having a little bit of fun doing it.
That's it. Yeah.
Who knows where AI will take us? All I know is that Shipnet are the people to be with. They absolutely know their stuff. Thank you so much for listening.